Graham, Victoria signing up to China's Belt and Road Initiative when the Australian government thought it was not in the national interest to sign up itself. What do you make of that?
Look, it's a little bit strange because I can't see what Victoria's getting out of it. Now, they may get something, but they won't get much. And so I don't quite understand why they'd go over the top and do it. I'll have to ask Tim Pallas, he's a mate of mine, so I'll ring him and ask why. But it's strange. That's how it seems to me. I mean, I love Hong Kong. I'm really worried about seeing it swallowed, seeing its legal system just gulped up by the Chinese government, swallowed, spat out, and just making them subject to the laws of China. And that's happening much faster than we ever thought it would. I mean, no one believed that the agreement with Britain would ever hold. The question was, how long would it be before the Chinese moved? And they've shown that now.
It's such a shame. Well, you mentioned Pallas. I have to ask Kerry, what can Victoria get out of it? Well, clearly it's deep in debt. It needs Chinese money. And I wonder whether that money's already talking when Victorian Treasurer Tim Pallas has sided with China in this war with Australia over calling for an inquiry into how this virus started. Yeah. Here is Tim Pallas.
All I can say is that I don't suppose would come as a surprise to anybody that this was the consequence of the way that the federal government had conducted themselves.
Well, Kerry, are we already seeing right there China's influence?
Well, there's been a lot of discussion about China's influence, Andrew, as you know, and there have been various politicians who've been singled out over the last 12 months and been accused of being puppets of the Chinese government. But when you have the treasurer of one of the states being that clear about his support for the Chinese government, and what I would suggest to you is against the national interest and indeed against the international interest. I mean, what the federal government has done has quite rightly asked for an inquiry to find out how this virus, where it came from, how it was released, why it spread so quickly, and for one very good reason, you know, if nothing else, to make sure it doesn't happen again. And to be criticising the federal government as a consequence of that, when it has stood up in, as I said, the world interest, is just outrageous. But I've got to say, the Treasurer is kind of on a bit, you know, I would have thought on fairly precarious grounds in his own state, because doesn't Victoria produce a lot of barley? I would have thought that the Victorian barley farmers would not be particularly impressed at the moment that their treasurer is not going into bat for them and is in fact, you know, basically saying, well, we really think the Chinese are being hard done by. Well, no, I don't think the rest of the world, and if we look at the number of countries that have now agreed with the Australian government, the EU, the states, all across the world, all agree with the Australian government and this inquiry. I think the Treasurer is a little bit out of step.